Last year's judicial review of the 2021 unlawful killing verdict found there had been some misdirection by the coroner to the jury. The appeal court disagreed with the Chief Justice's conclusions that it would not have affected the outcome of the inquest. The RGP took part in that review, adopting what Mr Justice Dudley described at the time as being an adversarial posture which directed at upholding the original verdict. The Court of Appeal judgment says although it's impossible to say if a properly directed jury would come to the same conclusion, it's in the interests of justice for the evidence to be heard at a fresh inquest. In the early hours of the 8th of March 2020, a Royal Gibraltar police vessel gave chase to two men in a rib suspected of carrying illegal cargo. It resulted in a collision in Spanish waters and the deaths of two men. The appeal court considered a number of key points, including whether those in the rib were owed a duty of care by the crew of the RGP vessel and whether the risk of death was a reasonably foreseeable consequence of the way the rib was handled. The original unlawful killing verdict was quashed on three grounds. Firstly, the coroner's errors in identifying the scope of the duty of care for the purposes of gross negligence manslaughter. Appeal Judge Sir Maurice Kay said a duty of care is always a duty to take care as is reasonable in the circumstances. He also rejected the Chief Justice's view that given the collision had occurred in Spanish waters, that it was beyond the RGP's jurisdiction, who, not having the power of arrest, were no longer acting in execution of their duty, even if they believed they were in Gibraltar waters. The appeal court considered this retrospective analysis to be manifestly wrong, and that consideration should have been given to the actions taken at the time and in the circumstances. The second ground upheld was the coroner's insufficient and misleading explanation to the jury of what constitutes a breach of duty. Thirdly, the coroner had regrettably misdirected the jury on the issue of serious and obvious risk of death. Again, the judgment said it was wrong of the Chief Justice to use the benefit of hindsight in his judicial review. It says an obvious risk is a present risk, which is clear and unambiguous, not one which might become apparent on further investigation. Sir Nigel Davies said it could not have been foreseen that the collision could take the horrific and fatal form it did. He said that the directions to the jury were not properly marshalled, balanced or legally accurate, and he agreed that justice requires that there should be a fresh appeal.